It worked. We're live. We did it.
Perfect.
Back from GTC. Holy cow. I
Oh,
hope
wow.
it's so great to be back. We've missed you. We had a fun time with many of you who attended GTC. Wendy, how are you doing?
Uh, I can't believe I made it through GTC. It's always that
We,
week where
we
you don't sleep, right?
it is, there's so much back to back. And yeah, we just had a great time. So thank you for everybody for participating. We did something different this year, and we actually hung out after the sessions
Oh, yeah.
uh,
Yeah, that was
on
fun.
Discord and did some Q&A with the presenters. That was so much fun.
I
Uh,
loved it. Yeah. It was so much fun talking with everyone. Um,
so that was kind of like a trial run, but we should always do that, right? We should
Absolutely.
we should double down on that. So we are going to do that. And we what we heard from a lot of people is that those sessions really help people kind of ask questions that they couldn't get into the session. It also got them to really connect with the presenters more. And I think most importantly, from Wendy and I's perspective, is that the users actually got to meet each other and connect. And several of them had joined for collaborative purposes
Yeah.
after those sessions. So that is awesome. So welcome everybody to the NVIDIA Omniverse live stream. We are broadcasting now on Twitch and YouTube, thanks to Wendy's awesome magic um, and her killer room. And today we have something super exciting. Uh, so this week, Unreal Engine 5 launched. Very big news in the game industry. I think a lot of people have been fooling around with Unreal Engine for a while, as it was in preview Unreal Engine 5, and to take off the covers and let everybody play around with it. It's just pretty exciting. So lots of really cool stuff this week from the community. And Lou and the team have been working very hard behind the scenes to make sure we were pretty much in sync with the Omniverse connector, so that people can collaborate.
Yeah.
So that's part of our live stream, which is we have a kind of a double header. So we're going to talk about that, but we're also going to talk with Edward McEvenue, who is here with us now. Who has that is not a fake background, that is real. I
That's
wish we
his
were all there
bar.
right now. We will
Yes,
head there
welcome on
soon
board.
at some
Next
point.
time, next live stream, we're at gonna be wherever that is.
Yes, you're all welcome.
So
Love
Edward
ready.
is the founder of EDSTUDIOS, based in Canada, and has actually been producing some fantastic workflow videos and kind of exploring Omniverse. And the NVIDIA team kind of paid attention right away because of the high quality, and he just really you just get it, Edward. So we're so happy to have you on here today.
Yeah, thank you.
And why don't we start? So why don't we do this? Why don't we start by talking about Edward's background and gives us some context on your work and the apps that you use, and then we'll dive into some of the Unreal exploration you do, and obviously Lou will give us a rundown of what the Unreal 5 connector actually does. And we'll tell people how they can participate and share videos with us as you're working with it. You can ask questions live. So the main purpose of doing the stream is twofold. One, we want to be able to answer people's questions. So use the chat room, whether you're on Twitch or YouTube. We also set up a channel for live streams on our Discord server. So if you want to ask questions there, you can. I'll monitor that. So we can answer you live, but also we want to kind of explore what people are doing also. So if you've got something you want to share, please post your links so the community can check it out. But Edward, let's get started. So
Yeah.
tell us.
Sounds good.
Edward is awesome because we actually were going to have a community spotlight with Edward a few weeks ago, and the live stream server network card failed. So what we did is we actually did not want to waste the opportunity. So we went on Discord and we hung out with a bunch of users on there. We had a blast. We got a sneak peek of what Edward has been working on. So that was so thanks Edward for that. But let's start from the beginning. Tell us what about your background, and then we'll talk about how you discovered Omniverse and what you're doing now.
Sure. So I'll give you a bit of the Coles notes. I won't go into too much detail, but yeah, just from a very young age, started more in like claymation and like playing with Legos, and I grew up right in like when Pixar was coming to the light, and definitely had a huge influence on my childhood and just kind of guided my interest towards animation. It's things I'd never seen before, and and Disney as well. And so I was always making, films using like an old high 8 camera, which is like literally starting and stopping on like those old film cameras. And I would just make these like silly animations in elementary school. And that was just something from a very young age. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And so in high school, I started learning like, some of the first versions of like 3ds Max, and which is, that's what I did for fun. Like, every day after school,
Awesome.
I was just always on 3ds Max. I'd make like these films, and just got to explore, just making cool art. And it was always one of those things that I never got tired of it, just because there was always something new you can create. Like the sky's the limit, and I loved that there was just infinity as far as like all the different things you can create, and the limitations that I was facing within claymation, which is, I had to actually build the sets, and I actually had to build the characters. In 3D, I'm like, I could have, a scene with all these mountains and trees. I didn't have to build it anymore. So it was like all of a sudden that production expense went away, and it was just like, it really came down to how much time and creativity and imagination I could put towards it. So I went to school for that, and did 3 years doing like film production in 3D. And during that time started EDSTUDIOS, and started doing commercials and my own like films, just personal projects, and got into doing like concert visuals. And I branched out into a whole bunch of other areas as well, from doing like web development into a bit of software development, and guiding into starting a film production company, and working, on the live production side, working with, real talent and sets, and learning that whole aspect of photography and filmography. And that, I think, made me a lot more better as an artist, because when you bring in the real world into 3D, having an understanding of how light and lenses and all of those things work together, it just gives you a much deeper understanding on the 3D side, because 3D mimics real life and not the other way around. And so that was really good insight. And so we got to travel the world and shot commercials all over. Landed in tons of different stories that came out of that. It was a lot of fun, from Nunavut and Miami and Africa and all these
Oh,
cool
wow.
fun places we got to shoot. So lots of fun stories. And so photography always remained a hobby, and that just kind of complemented my work in the 3D side. And so Omniverse, I was kind of more a recent development, because real-time rendering has always been an interest. Because from the young days in starting out in this, it's like I had an old Pentium 3 computer, and it was like rendering. It was very unattainable for starting out that thing, where if I wanted to do a full film, it would take me weeks and weeks and weeks to finally be able to kind of cut together like some footage for it. So as I kind of grew into the industry, it was like adding more and more computers, building out a rendering farm, and just a ton of money it went into this equipment. And so real-time rendering was always of an interest, because it was always like that was the bottleneck, right? I can create all this really cool content, but the bottleneck of rendering, if there was ways to reduce that and really simplify that, I became interested in Element 3D. And I started doing like film projects, like exporting like OBJ sequences and trying to use Element 3D to try and leverage like GPU rendering, because I come from like a traditional rendering background, like using V-Ray and Redshift and all those kind of things, where one frame would take 10 minutes. And so then after that, it was kind of graduating into Unreal Engine, and seeing the amazing visual, things you could do with that. And, the fact you didn't have to bake your scenes anymore, and like bake all these light maps and like ambient occlusion maps, like it was all doing all of those things for you. And, with the power of Nanite and Lumen, it was doing all these cool things. And then comes Omniverse, which was a game changer for me, because that was something that was much closer to the original workflow, which I grew up in. Which it just
Oh,
felt so
that's
much
good.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just felt a lot more natural. Like the actual learning curve was so much less, because I feel like Unreal Engine was a lot more unintuitive to the workflow I was used to. It felt more like using a game engine to try and push it into a like a traditional like rendering engine, if that makes sense. It was kind of like cutting away features and using like sequencer and other amazing tool regardless, but it was just one of those things that at Omniverse I definitely felt a lot more at home. So I don't know what other details you want me to dive into, but that's kind of the broad strokes.
No, that's super valuable. I think it's so amazing that you have all these different areas that you kind of you've excelled in, but you've continued to work in that over the years. So right
Mhm.
now you're still very busy in all these areas, right? You're doing a personal project, you're
Yep.
doing client work,
Mhm.
and hopefully maybe you'll show us one day some of your movies from when you were younger. I would
Yeah.
love to
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah, no,
So
it's been a trip. I have to go and collect them all, but yeah, I have some of them still on DVDs and old like VHS tapes and stuff. I have to
Oh,
go
that would be
dig
fun
in
to
the basement
share.
to find them. Yeah.
So and so you've started a pretty awesome YouTube channel too. So tell me a little bit about so this channel name is easy to remember. It's Ed Studios.
Mhm.
What is your focus on that channel? 'Cause I know you're sharing a lot of cool workflow videos, and you're also showing a lot of just really cool stuff. Like the snow
Yeah,
deformation is pretty cool. So what's your goal there?
thanks. Yeah. So it's one of those things that over, at least 10 plus years, there's all these problems you solve, right? Like you find out these different workflows and things like like the snow deformation and stuff like that. And all this different content that I've just acquired and different problems I've had to solve for different commercial projects or film projects, they just kind of, die on a hard drive. And I'm like, you know what? I wanted to share that knowledge because it's one of those things that it's a resource that I would have loved to have because a lot of it was a lot of trial and error and figuring out faster solutions and, coming from the days of particle flow and now with tie flow and like the power of multi-threaded, architecture, there's all of these old workflows which haven't really been translated into these new tools yet. And so that's where, even with Omniverse, I was really interested in kind of seeing like, okay, could I use TypeFlow within Omniverse? Could I use, even, I haven't done it yet, but like playing around with like V2B sequences, like could I use like something like Phoenix FD and like bring in like, or using like the power of like flow, right? To see if I can get those like real volumetric clouds working in real time. And so to me, it just kind of opened up a Pandora's box. I'm like, oh, like this is really cool. If I can, remove the bottleneck of rendering and now have it all playing seamlessly in real time, that it's like the creativity that comes from being able to see visual images in real time. And I know with like V-Ray
Right.
RT and like Redshift, they have their own kind of real-time-ish tools, but with Omniverse, you're getting pretty close to like almost final image right out of the gate. Like there's no having to do approximations. And so if you can have all these elements in your scene playing together, all of a sudden you can plan your camera angles and kind of just focus more on the creative side of things rather than trying to focus more on the technical side. And so that was something I'm still trying to, run through it as fast as possible because there's all these things I want to try. And yeah, I just want to share that knowledge at the same time and hopefully help some other people along the way.
It is super
Absolutely.
helpful.
Yeah.
And so what would you say, what's your advice to people who are just maybe learning about Omniverse, which is NVIDIA's real-time simulation and collaboration platform? What would you say to people who are just starting with it? What's the best way to get started? How did you start learning everything? Did you start kind of messing with it,
Yeah,
or do you go to videos or documentation?
I watched a couple tutorials, and it's more a testament to the power of Omniverse. It really didn't take much to get acquainted with the tools because it's really intuitive as far as how things are laid out. So if you're familiar like with any kind of DCC or like digital content creation tool like Maya, 3ds Max, Blender, C4D, any of those, it's very similar in how those things work, right? You're not having to stray too far in how it's done. So what I watched was just a tutorial of someone who was just doing something that looked like it was out of Pixar. It was like a knight that was on a horse, and they were kind of just showing the basic thing of how to animate and light a scene, bringing in I think it was like USD or Alembic sequences, and just kind of snap together this quick sequence. And that was actually what got me into Omniverse right away. I'm like, holy crap! I'm like, that's coming real time in his viewport, and he's kind of zooming around with the camera. And so I watched the series, and from there I just started playing around, dragging in lights into my scene, just playing with some of the presets. Like some of the cool things about Omniverse is that it comes with these like materials and these, like the sky HDRIs and other things that you can just drag and drop and get something snapped together pretty quickly. That once you're seeing those things on a page, you're like, okay, I got this like, simple box in the sky and it all looks really cool. How do I bring in custom stuff, right? And that's what gets you to the connectors, which is like, one of the pains from traditional workflows is trying to get your assets to be looking
Yeah,
good in one software and bringing it all over,
right.
right? Where you're like, okay, it looks good in Substance. Now, how do I get my exact same shaders built in V-Ray and 3ds Max, right? And there's all these different tools. The thing is, it feels like it's a smorgasbord of like all these, different tools all over the place that you have to kind of learn to kind of snap them together like Legos. And so what's really nice about these connectors is it's generally one click, and then it all looks exactly the same as you set it up in the original software. And so that's nice that you don't have to rebuild those shaders. I don't have to drag in my diffuse and my spec and my normal maps and try and get them to look the same. And yeah, it's nice.
That's great. You're really using the parts of Omniverse that makes us very happy because that's
Yes.
exactly you're exactly why Omniverse and NVIDIA's worked on this
Hmm.
Yeah.
platform. Um, so do you so you're collaborating, but you're collaborating with different apps, right? And tools.
Yeah.
Most of the work you do is by yourself, is that right?
Yeah, for the most part. Like I'm starting now to kind of expand out and work with other artists and try and tackle
Mm.
bigger projects. But for the vast majority of my career, it's been problem solving and building my own pipeline, and that pipeline has changed drastically over the years, right? Like as new tools kind of come in, it's just evolved. And so Omniverse is now one of that new pieces of software that are added onto the end of the pipeline. And as of right now, it's the end of the pipeline where different tools I built out and started the projects in 3ds Max and done V-Ray, and then I realized I ended up just finishing it right in Omniverse because of the tools that I was able to use. So one of those, for instance, is a agricultural product where they wanted to show this like wheat field, and it was like an aerial view of like a farm, and there's all these like, you know, blowing wheat, and they wanted to have a thing where like the wheat grows out of the ground, and it's like a beautiful sunny day, and then the camera kind of pans over, and we kind of have, you know, different things revealed. And so having those billions of instances, like initially I was using like Force Pack Pro, which is like a plugin for 3ds Max, which has, you know, leverages instances and geometry when you want to have billions of polygons, but it didn't look as good as Omniverse, which is, it was also slow because you're still stuck in that, you know, traditional rendering of, you know, 10 minutes per frame. So what I did is I built out all my instances in, I grew a plant using like an FBX sequence, which I exported into Omniverse.
Oh, cool.
And then from there, I used instances to, what I used was just a bunch of boxes, right? I just created these like thin, tall boxes, instance like hundreds of thousands of them across this like plane. And then from there, I just went into like the custom properties of the USD and then pointed it to my my wheat plant, which was growing. And then boom, now we have, I can show you some visuals. I rendered it out.
Yeah, let's I was going to say.
Yeah, it'd
please
make
do.
it a lot easier to explain here. Give me 1 second. Okay, so we good? Can you see?
I can see see us twice.
Oh, okay. Hold on 1 second. Oh,
One more time.
one more time. Go to screen. Screen one. All right. How did I do here? We good?
Okay, I
Yes.
can see.
Yep.
Yes, we're good.
Yep.
Okay, so this is an older version of the project, but this will just give you an idea roughly. This is all running out of Omniverse. And so it was using like a morph sequence to kind of show some growing plants because is what the client wanted. They wanted to show the various stages of like wheat growth. And so this was actually an old iteration. We actually changed it because they were like, well, once wheat matures, it actually doesn't keep growing. So this is outdated. But
Oh
it
yeah,
gives you
once it's brown.
yeah, once it starts going to that golden age, it's or golden phase, it
Golden.
actually can keep going.
It looks
Yeah.
great though.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's
Yeah, thank you.
incredible. And
So
and
this is
that's
what I was-
one model that you just you know, copied several different times. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, it was like
Oh, I see.
animating
I
into
see
it.
where-
So
yeah.
this is the power of instances, right? You can just see
Yeah.
how much detail we have running within this wheat field.
Holy.
And this is, you know, it's one of
Wow.
those things. I was rendering it on Force Pack Pro, and I'm like, this is literally billions of polygons because I have trees, I have other things within the scene that are all running, and it's like this is all real time. Like you're getting all of, like
Yeah.
the real shadow effects, and I'm like, you know, my mind was blown. I'm like, this is amazing. This is, you know, one of the things I've always wanted. So that when you start setting up your cameras, you know, when you have real depth of field and your lighting. In this example, I didn't set it up with like the final look, but once you add in the sky and it's just so much fun flying around your scene as if you're like a drone flying around like you know, a farmer's field. It's just so cool. You can just see how fast like that's running.
Amazing.
So yeah, it was one of those things. I found a workaround for that to be able to jump into and change like the custom USD properties because you can paint. Like I was trying to, what I initially did when I was setting up the scene is I had, you know, my paintbrush set up where I was actually painting on those, you know, different crops. And I'm like, okay, well that gives you a certain type of look. But from here, it was like, how do I get this to be different parts of the field? And so this is like a rough version of the animation. It's not like the final version. But you can see like these trees here in the background, that was like 300 million polygons and those were all like painted in. And there were so many iterations on this project where this is actually like the 10th look that the farm had to get rearranged and like the different trees actually had multiple arrangements. And that's like, you know, again, another testament to Omniverse is that the client was like, hey, can we actually switch around the farmhouse? Can we position this here? Can we make the tree line look like this? Can we, you know, even with like the crops, because there's, you know, all these things I was learning that I didn't know about where like from headlands and, you know, just the way that crops is grown. And so this is actually outdated, but you're like, these things have to get, like it's still an ongoing project. So I'm just going to show you, or I'm just showing you like a version that's like a week old, but like even just the different crop lines, like that ability to generate using flooding on the paintbrush, you can actually control exactly where your instances go. So that's just something that I found a solve that I
That
wasn't actually able to
looks
do within 3ds Max.
amazing. So
That is
cool.
Yeah.
super cool.
Yeah, so that was just, it's one of those things I'm still experimenting, but I've just been having a lot of fun.
That's great. And again, this is work you've done just on your own.
Yeah, yeah, this is on my own, and this is just working right now, just B2C for like
Very
this
cool.
project. But, yeah.
And so we mentioned, we gave a tease about that snow deformation. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because I find that work so fascinating.
Yeah, so that was initially I was trying to find a better solution to a problem I was having, where one of the main workflows I found to be able to do deformation of like sand or mud or snow was to use custom properties in the modifier stack of 3ds Max. And it's, without getting too technical, because not everyone uses 3ds Max, it was actually very slow. And so you could do real deformation real time within your scene, but I found that if you had a limited amount of polygons, it was fairly quick. But as soon as you got into bigger and bigger scenes, it slowed down dramatically. And so you have to do a lot of partitioning effects where you're isolating certain parts of the geometry. And so I'm like, there's got to be a faster way. And so I was using TieFlow in order to generate particles that match the vertex counts on large pieces of geometry, like millions of polygons. And then using a particle simulation tool like TieFlow, because it's multi-threaded and very fast, it was able to do real-time deformations by doing a skin deformer that lines the mesh up to the other one. So it's a long way to say that it's easier just to show rather than try and tell. Give me one
Very
second
cool.
here.
Oh, we have a guest, Paul Cutsinger. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Welcome.
And
Hello.
hey, Paul.
Hey.
So excited, yeah. Very cool stuff.
I love having drop-ins from NVIDIA. So Paul, feel free to jump in on anything, or if you saw something you want us to go over more. Do you want to give people a quick introduction on who you are?
Sure. Hey, I'm Paul. I work on the Exchange, so helping people get all the tools they might want to have access to build out these great workflows. And what I've been inspired so far about watching you is this workflow energy that you have, like just thinking through all the workflows and how this all plays together. So I'm always curious about it. It's really fantastic.
Yeah, thanks. So
Very
can you guys
cool.
see my screen right now? Or?
Yes. So
Yes.
you're gonna look at the snow, right? This is awesome.
Yeah, so this was just finding a really quick way to do it. So I'm using craft animation to just do like, the car driving. And it's fun because you can, just literally like a first person driver, just drive around your scene and record all your animations that way. And so Omniverse actually has that as well built in through like their own car rigging tools. I haven't done it yet just because I use the tools I know on this one, but that's something I definitely plan on exploring. But you can see that this is a mesh that I exported as an alembic sequence, and that was all generated using TieFlow, again, using that like particle skinning technique. And so that was something that I found really quick, and like the iterative design was very fast on it as well. And so this was also something I showed last time. It was just like a silly animation, but it was showing again the power of being able to deform massive amounts of geometry very quickly. So there's all these different uses you can use for it, from like mud, sand, snow, anything that requires any kind of like deformation.
Yeah, I like how the drivers of those cars didn't care how much snow was on the ground. They were just like, yep, here we go.
That was
Here we go, yeah.
New York City.
Yeah,
don't
no,
care.
I guess that's being a Canadian. I guess we're all that way. So
And I think I mentioned this last time, but one of our leads saw this video and he's like, "This is a mobile game right here. This is awesome."
yeah, so it's just like I was just playing around with like the ragdolls and TieFlow and just bringing it all into Omniverse because it's just so much fun to see, plan your camera angles and just kind of snap together a sequence really quickly together using like the various animation tools that are there.
That's awesome. Well, you have this open. Is there any other candy you want to show us?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I've been mainly like over these last things, I'm just slowly getting them more into like commercial client projects, but I've been doing a lot of just visual content for, learning myself, like just playing around with these different things. And I'm trying to do like the, kill two birds with one stone, where I'm like, you know what, all this tutorial content I'm focused on trying to share. I'm like, this is the perfect use case to use Omniverse to render these examples out really quickly, rather than just doing like, a screen, like a viewport screen grab or something. So there was yeah, just a ton of examples that I've been, making over the last few months. I've been like learning Omniverse more and more. So this was one of like the earlier tests, and this was
This
actually one of the
So,
first instances of combining Unreal for me with Omniverse, because all of the buildings here that were shown in the background, other than this main hero building here, was actually all Unreal generated. So it was Unreal
oh, very
content that was
cool.
then brought into Omniverse, and then I used TyFlow within 3ds Max to bring in that building and brought in all like the animation that was simulated there. So all
wow.
these different tools all working together and then rendering it out directly within
It's just
Omniverse.
beautiful. Yeah, the first time I saw this, I was blown away.
Thank you. Yeah, it to me it's just been there's just so many different things I wanted to try. So actually this one we have sound for, so maybe I'll leave that one to last. But this was one of the other ones as well where I was just trying to test the limits of Omniverse, because it was one of those things I'm like, I kind of keep trying to push the boundaries to be like, okay, how much geometry can this handle? Like, what kind of effects can I throw at this? And you can see in this one, there's 32 million polygons. This is a New York City 3D model that I got. I didn't build it myself. It was through TurboSquid. And you're only seeing actually a small portion of this. I'll share it later on with Edmar, and he can, maybe show you guys. But
Yeah.
just flying through the viewport in Omniverse and kind of seeing just how massive this model is, it's pretty crazy how responsive it is. So this was just like a sequence I threw together, just playing around with some lighting effects and atmospheric fog, and it was something I was telling Admir about last time. But I had another project file I had built originally with 3ds Max, and like each one of the frames was taking an hour to do. And
Oh,
so I'd
wow.
only had time to do 2 scenes, and I was like, I had this plan to make this whole sequence, and I thought it was just so cool being able to see this kind of traffic light, like that kind of like time lapse effect you get when you do like open exposure on like cars. And so I wanted to try and do my own kind of abstract version of that. And as soon as I discovered Omniverse, I'm like, oh, I got to try this now, because of just the speed of being able to render it out so quickly and get that real time feedback. So yeah, so that was like an old project that I kind of brought back from a shelf 3 years ago, and I'm like, okay, well, let's try this again. And so this
That
was kind of
is
like the result.
So,
so
yeah, so
cool.
how long did that take to render out?
I think it was taking around under 30 seconds per frame.
Okay.
I ended up going. I went a bit higher. I think it ended up taking like 20 minutes or half an hour or something to do the whole sequence, and that was because I had to up the samples like crazy in order to get the fog
The
to
fog.
not have any kind of noise in it. If I got rid of the
Mm-hmm.
fog, it'd be even faster. But that was just because of the um, global illumination on like the buildings, and like trying to capture some of that light getting within like the atmospheric fog. The samples had to get increased a bit.
And
That's still
so
fast.
Yeah, still very fast.
which so a couple people are asking what kind of hardware you're using. So I know we talked about this before. So I know you have a
Yes.
pretty nice setup. So do you want to share what that is?
Yeah, so talking about render farms and stuff like that, I invested a ton of money into render farms, and it's funny that a lot of it's kind of getting I have 6 computers. I have 3 3080 Ti's and 3 3070 Ti's, but this is all rendered on one computer now. So in like traditional workflow, each one of those computers I use as render nodes, where they're each handling one frame of a sequence. And so if you have one frame that's 10 minutes and it's across 6 computers, you can render out obviously much faster. But this is all rendering off one GPU, one 3080 Ti RTX
Wow,
card.
it's amazing.
Yeah, so
Really,
like
really.
now I need to just kind of put them all into one computer,
Hmm.
because you can use like multi GPUs, right? So I can
Yeah,
Yeah.
handle even more
you may need
geometry.
to
Scale it
upgrade
up.
your power supply, but yes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and
That is
so
awesome. Yeah, I think we're gonna. Oh yeah, yeah. This is.
Oh,
I was gonna say really quick. We definitely want to do a live stream on hardware. So we're gonna have Vince Brisebois on our team to
sure.
show his amazing Omniverse rig. But yeah, explain what this is. This is so cool.
Yeah, so this is just again playing with craft animations where you can just drive around a scene with like a car, and there's a much better way to do this actually now right within Omniverse, and something I discovered after doing this. But the when you're driving around 3ds Max with the craft animation, you don't actually get that real time response hitting the blocks. It's one of those things you kind of drive through a ghost mesh, and then afterwards you simulate the blocks falling.
mm-hmm.
But within Omniverse, I know you can rig up a real car to
Yeah.
drive around as you want, and you also have these physics simulations natively built in. So it would actually be much better to use the tools within Omniverse, because then you get that real feedback of like driving into something, seeing it falling over. You could do as many takes as you want. So this is more, I guess, the traditional workflow, but this was all rendered right within Omniverse.
Yeah, we actually did a live stream on this, Wendy. That was a lot of fun,
No.
right?
Yeah. That was so
Yeah,
much fun. We we did it all like, in real time. Brought
with
in the
four
vehicle.
developers.
Yeah, four developers brought in a vehicle live, drove it around live,
Yeah.
set everything on fire.
They were
Yeah,
they were
it's so much
also
fun.
working from different continents, if I
Yes.
remember right. But they were collaborating on the same scene at the same exact time. Um, so Edward, when you start working with somebody, I really can't wait to see how you use leverage Omniverse to collaborate with another user.
Yeah.
And for anyone who doesn't know, Omniverse for individuals is 100% free. There's no
Yes.
cost whatsoever, and that includes you adding a second user to that. So you can have two concurrent users at Omniverse at the same time, absolutely free. So in someone like Edward's case, it's all just all amazing workflow for free.
It's
Sounds great.
Now this,
absolutely worth the time to get into it too, because like he was saying earlier, it kind of brought him back to his original pipelines. Back to his days when he was doing claymation and
Yeah.
it took the work out of the pipeline so he could get creative, and start making things. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't remember if it was you, Edmar, who said it, or maybe it was someone else I was talking to, but it's, working at the speed of creativity. And it's like,
Right.
I love that saying just because it makes sense. It's like, to me, the technical part of it is fun, but it's just a means to an end, right? It's like, I
yeah,
love learning the technical parts of what it allows me to do. But if I could put more of that energy into the creative part, then that's just like, that's where the pure fun is, right? So that's what I love about these kind of tools, is that the bottleneck of rendering, it's it's coming down. Like the barrier to entry is going down now, and with different tools like even Unreal Engine and with Omniverse being able to kind of leverage the power of that, at combining all these different tools, it's one of those things that that barrier to entry, you don't need to spend tens and tens of thousands of dollars like I did to build up the render farm that I have now, because you can run this all off a laptop. And so it's one of those things that kids who want to create their own films, like back then you had to really condense your creativity to fit within a certain production budget, because not everyone had the means to go in, like, unless you had years and years and years and to spend renting off a laptop. Now it's like the barrier to entry is virtually non-existent. To me, it reminds me of like the music industry. Like, we're back in like the 90s, you needed to have at least $100,000 to produce an album, because in order to get any studio time, that was the only way to have access to like different analog hardware, or like the studio equipment required in order to output anything decent. And then cut to like a decade and a half later, where you have Avicii, who produced a top 40 single on just a laptop with like a few VSTs and like Ableton or something, right? So for like a few $100s and like a laptop, like you can compete with like the best of the best. And so
totally.
I
I'm
love it.
pretty confident that in 10 years, the content you see on Netflix or Disney Plus or any of those other like streaming platforms, some of that content that's going to be award winning is going to be done by very, very small teams, like a few people. Because all these tools, what it's really doing is it's bringing down the barrier to entry, so that it comes down to story, it comes down to creativity and content. And really, it's like if everyone can do it, it's like, how do you now how do you now rise above that? And so it's exciting. Like, I want to see what other people are going to create with this.
I
And
love
Oh
that
yeah.
you just said that, because
Yeah.
I can't agree more. And there's a couple of things about that which is fascinating to me. I think along the lines of what you're saying, I think very soon we're going to see points of view that we've never seen before
yeah,
by creators being able to leverage the low barrier to entry, which by the way is about to get even lower because Omniverse Cloud is coming out, so people won't even need to
Yes.
be tied down to the
yeah,
local hardware. So I think that it happened also in the game industry, right? And thanks to
yeah,
Epic Games for one of the pioneers for really making the engine so accessible to people,
hmm,
where you didn't have all these upfront costs. And then we saw an literal explosion of indie game studios,
yeah,
single, double team, or larger, but teams that were able to all of a sudden create experiences that just never had the financial
yeah.
ability to be able to do that
Right.
before.
Right.
Well,
Uh,
yeah, because I know, because I learned Unity and I developed a few apps for it. Just when I saw how simple it was to, for instance, back when I was growing up, me and my brother were like, oh, let's make a video game. We were so excited, and he had this old like, C++ for Dummies book, and it was like, it was like using Game Maker engine, and it was like, and just to make like a cube in like a pool of water was like, like that was
I
the
had that
limits of
same
like a
book.
1
I
week.
just want to say.
Yeah, and
That's how I
it's me.
started. Yeah.
That was just exciting, being able to flip through the pages and be like, oh, I can make a checkered wall, or I can it was just like really
Yeah.
simple stuff, or I can make a water shader, and it was like, this is back in the Doom days, the original like graphics engine stuff. But
Yeah.
so then I saw Unity, and I saw what people were able to create, because they really simplified the process of like making it accessible to like your average user who could just focus on like creating their own content and stuff. So all these different industries, from the game industries to the film industry, it seems like it's all kind of like colliding together now.
Yeah.
Where these kind of interactive experiences are so much more attainable. And so yeah, it's just really cool to see what other people are coming up with.
Oh, totally. We just announced that at our user group at GTC, our second Omniverse ambassador, JS Films, or
Oh,
Jay
yes.
Selena, and he showed off something he was working on a few days ago, a nice scene, that a nice short movie in Omniverse, and he's just also just one person, but
And he did it
just
in
can't
like
believe
on a Saturday, I think he
he
said.
did it.
Yeah,
on the,
yeah,
yep.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So before you show off what we're about to see, because I know what you're about to show off, this is
Yep.
perfect segue to introduce Lou.
Yes.
Because Edward worked on this fantastic tutorial about using the Omniverse connector, the Unreal connector with Unreal Engine 5. Lou, so our second special guest is Lou Rohan, who is an NVIDIA engineer, a senior software engineer here. And Lou works on quite a few things. I'll let him explain. One of them is Unreal, so that's why he's here today. But that's not all he does. So Lou, why don't you introduce yourself, so people can understand what you do?
First I want to say I'm not nearly as special as Ed here. I'm inspired by watching this. I didn't know everything that I was going to see, and what I'm seeing is the culmination of the team on which I work, which is the Connect team in Omniverse. And our goal is to bring together all these apps that Ed is using, and whether the target is Omniverse Create or View as the renderer, which we see Ed doing a lot, but also he's saying he can use any renderer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is our goal. I'm a software engineer, been a software engineer for a long time, worked on Unreal for, we did VR Funhouse, we did Holodeck, and but we were hitting these limitations with how we can move content around, and I'm being very abstract here, but it aligns perfectly with what Ed's been doing. So with Unreal specifically, we've been making a connector. It's a plugin so that you can export, import, and collaborate inside of Unreal with Omniverse assets. And we focus on stages, scenes, which you'll see Ed export here. We focus on meshes themselves, skeletal meshes, animation, level sequence data, and almost most importantly, which is materials. We're not able to do every single material you can do in Unreal. I mean, Unreal's material system is amazing. It's got years and years and years of development, and what we're trying to do is match that so that you can get that high level of fidelity between Unreal and Create or Maya or V-Ray or whatever you're working on, and that's always our goal. I'm sort of pitching, but again, so we've been tracking with Unreal 4, and as Unreal 5 came out with EA1, EA2, what we originally saw was a lot of Unreal 4, and we just had to change a few things. But over the months, we've been tracking their changes. So they've added a lot of support for large worlds, which gave us a little bit of a hiccup here recently. But that's all right. They're making big core changes to their engine, and they've got a lot of animation improvements and changes in Unreal Engine 5. Obviously, there's Nanite. With their geometry streaming and Lumen, and we're able to respond to some of that. We can export those nanite meshes, but we should note that we're getting, when you do that, you're getting a lot of geometry. I'm not sure if Ed gets into that at all in this, but we're excited to see that the bar has been raised for the type of content that can be generated. Renders are supporting these massive either simulations or scenes that people want. People I say people, Unreal Engine is improving its sequencer, its ability to edit in-engine animation. And what we want to do, our goal is to improve the USD workflow within Unreal Engine. Epic is working hard on that. We're working hard on that. And in the future, I know that we're going to collaborate even more than we already have. So I'll stop because I don't have any cool videos, and I know everybody.
Well, we did get a couple questions. So, Luke, can you tell us what's the state of the connector right now with
Unreal Engine? For Unreal Engine 5, I'm sitting on it right now. I have it. We have a tested version. I'll just be honest. We don't release anything on Friday because we have an entire team that supports this Omniverse stuff, and so I'm sitting on it. I really do hope we can get this out Monday. And forgive me, for not having it yet. The branch landed on Tuesday, and we've been semi scrambling. We work on a lot of things on the Omniverse team. So I hope early,
pretty good.
I hope early next week. I mean, my goal was Tuesday, and we were almost there, but we missed a few things. So again, my apologies for anybody that started it and then their Omniverse plugin said no, you can't run. It's not compatible. So I gave what I thought was pretty good specific directions to address that. If Edmar or Wendy, if we see any other issues in the community like that, let me know and we'll try to direct people.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Awesome. All right, so Edward, do you want to show your video again? We'll fly through your Unreal scene.
So it was a demo that I created while trying to explore, the features of the connector. And so I had originally built the scene in Unreal Engine 5, and then I brought it over to Omniverse. And so I was playing around, Omniverse, as some of you may know, launched like a newer version 2022. And within it, there are some new like animation features, like the animation timeline. From before, there was a keyframer extension that was being used. And if you dive into it, you can see that you can animate lights, you can animate camera angles, you can snap it all together using like the animation sequencer. And there's just a ton of features, I haven't dived into fully, but you can animate your materials, through Omnigraph and other things. There's a whole layer underneath you can dive into. So even like that old, like the one we showed back here, I was animating the materials going from green to gold using like the material graph, where you can dive in and get really like granular if you want to.
This is beautiful.
So for anyone who's using Unreal 5 and Omniverse, if you go to the EDSTUDIOS YouTube channel, the tutorial is there. It really covers everything, start to finish, and then some. He tells you how to get around a couple things and optimize things, and then does a nice comparison of the renders. But what advice would you have for people who are just starting using Omniverse and coming from Unreal 5 and want to check out how to anything they need to watch out for in your eyes, Edward?
The only issue I had was just materials. I brought in a model that I got off CG Trader, and the materials weren't done right. It didn't have proper UVs, and so that was just throwing some errors. But as soon as I unwrapped it properly, then everything was running just fine. So I think that has to do with some of the way that Unreal handles materials and like the way it bakes things. It's a lot more concerned with UVs than other, I guess, DCCs on the Unreal side. So yeah, that was something. Once that was solved, everything was pretty seamless and smooth after that, and I was able to finish everything off in Omniverse.
Awesome. And then what's next for your channel and for you and your Unreal or Unreal work or Omniverse work?
Just so many things to try. So I have all these different things from different simulations that I've put together in like TyFlow that I want to kind of have running in real time and just play around with different animation ideas within Omniverse. So these are some visuals I was just playing around with materials and lighting and just kind of playing in that abstract world, because that's the things I enjoy. These are some projects that I'd built traditionally within like 3ds Max and V-Ray and Redshift. And so just this kind of imagery I really want to try bringing into Omniverse and actually animating. because the reason these ones weren't turned into actual proper stories and just more just visual experiments was because of, you know, the limitations of rendering and just, you know, not having enough time to kind of throw the rendering power needed at it. And so that bottleneck's gone. You know, for instance, like these ones with the ocean rendering, this is already animated, like the real caustic ocean effects, and like the simulation's fully built in TyFlow. So, you know, when you see it played, like all the bottles kind of settle and float down as like, you know, this is going to be a story talking about, you know, how if we don't take care of our oceans, basically this is all we're going to have left, right? And so that was something I wanted to turn into a story, and so that's something I plan on trying to do with Omniverse, and just it's totally doable given everything that currently exists. And you know, playing around with the UDIM and other like image sequences, I want to try and play around with seeing if I can get that, you know, ocean caustic effect using like an ocean caustic texture generator, and get that playing nicely and see how that looks. And yeah, things like that. Like I have this Unreal Engine 5 film that I want to see if I can do similar content within Omniverse. This was using fairly simple scene setups, but this is all totally like doable as well. And to me personally, I prefer the look of Omniverse more. I love like the path tracing, you know, quality that you get out of it. And it just feels like you're less fighting the software, if that makes sense. Just on the Unreal side, there's just many instances where, you know, using the sequencer that, you know, you have to cut out frames out of the beginning of like a shot, or you have characters that are stuck in a T-pose because for whatever reason, the way it handles memory, you just have these different glitches that can happen if your video buffer is using too much memory. And so these are just some things that I want to try and explore and just see what other kind of visual content I can come up with.
Beautiful.
So all these things you can see on my website, and you know, even things like I was really interested in trying to go back to my roots and come up with like claymation shaders within, you know, 3D, and see if I can create, you know, the same kind of aesthetic I loved growing up from Wallace and Gromit. You know.
Oh my God.
Oh wow.
So cool.
Yeah, so
Wow.
I'm just trying to see if I can, you know, get this all working as a story and just have a lot of fun with it. So yeah, just different things like that I definitely want to try out.
Amazing work. Everything you're showing.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Thanks so much.
Amazing quality.
I'd like have you one quick question. You mentioned the Create or Omniverse being a little bit more touchy about UVs. Did you get that feedback back to us in any way?
Yes, I did. And
okay,
it was
great.
something I solved on my side just through a bit of Googling. It wasn't necessarily an Omniverse issue. I think it was an Unreal Engine issue, because I ended up.
Oh, I don't want to.
No. I'm not from any like. It was just something that I, you know, obviously didn't unwrap the model properly.
Yeah.
I was expecting the software just to do the heavy lifting for me and be like, hey, just, you know, solve it. And I'm like,
Gotcha.
I should have given it more information. And then after that, everything worked smoothly.
All right. Just wanted to make sure we didn't have a hole in some workflow there. Great.
No. Yeah, it was just something that other people, if they're encountering similar issues, just check your materials and just check your UVs and make sure that's all in a good spot.
That's fair.
So Lou, where's the best place to get information on the Unreal connector, and how do you install it? Well, you can watch the tutorial video, obviously, but
yeah, the first thing you need to do is get it first from Epic Games Launcher. Make sure you get the right version, the release version. If you had the preview version. Again, this is whenever we release this, the final connector. We've got a preview 2 connector right now. You get it from Epic Games Launcher, so you start there, and then we have our Omniverse launcher, which you can get from again, just Google NVIDIA Omniverse, and you'll find the process of how to register. So you get that from the Omniverse launcher. You go to the connectors tab. Unreal Engine, we support right now. We're supporting 4.2.6, 4.2.7, and 5.0. You can get one of those, whichever one you'd like. And then at that point, it will install, and we install straight into the engine. So any project you're using will then automatically have that little Omniverse button. If you want to learn more about it, we have a documentation page. It's just, what is it, docs.nvidia.omniverse or docs.omniverse.nvidia.com, or again, just
docs.nvidia. Yeah, it's perfect.
There you go. Just Google it.
Omniverse,
go through the connectors. You'll find the Unreal connector, and I try to be as verbose and informative as possible there as to what we support, what we don't support. But I mean, Unreal is ever changing, and it has a ton of features. So we line up different things. Also, the forums, again, NVIDIA Omniverse forums, you'll find those. We have a lot of questions. People asking, when are you gonna support this? When are you gonna support that? A lot of questions about hair and importing and packaging. Right now, we're currently an editor only plugin. That may improve in the future. I know that Epic is working on getting USD working in package builds or game builds, and it's a little bit different than what Ed is doing here, whereas he's looking for a final sort of film render. On the other end, we've got users that want to use this in a packaged, I'll say game, but it's more of a package project because they're not always games. And we're really close to having a really good import where you can import as Unreal assets instead of just having it as USD in the engine. So that you could generate a package build off of using USD as sort of your interchange format as opposed to other formats. We hope to bring more fidelity, better materials, and more support from other DCC tools with that. So I may have gone too far. You asked me where to get it, but I was trying to.
That's perfect.
We'll take every ounce of knowledge you have on this live stream. So thank you.
And I will note that Lou is one of my top help on the forum.
On Discord too. He's everywhere.
You will be talking straight to him a lot of times.
Yeah, I hope I have good news for you.
Out of all the stuff he does here, he takes time to chat with everyone. So thank you so much for that, Lou.
Well, I really appreciate all the creators out there pushing all the boundaries. And when I'll say, when you see somebody like Ed just saying, "Oh, I couldn't get this to work, so I just patched it up and did it this other way," I'm really interested in your whole box to grass or to wheat instance trick and how you do that. And I mean,
it was definitely very powerful getting around, and now it's like there's so many other doors that open now. So I'm going to share a tutorial so other people can kind of figure that out if they want to kind of have more control over their instances versus just manually painting things. And that was a perfect worst case scenario for me because the client was like, "Hey, can you change this? Can you do it like this? Can you add like the actual tractor lines?" And I'm like, "Okay, how do I do that?" Right. So having that power to be able to do that, you can just have a lot more finesse and control over your instances and really leverage that.
Awesome.
So I sent you that video, Edmar. I don't know if you have it.
Let me see. So Wendy's actually hosting a live stream server.
Which video is it? So what I'm going to have to do is, because I didn't prepare for this earlier, I'm going to have to drop it on the top of us and play it that way.
I can duck. Should I duck?
Worst that can happen.
Yeah, everyone just tilt to the side here.
That's all right.
So what was the name of the video?
It was a Vimeo link.
Vimeo. Here, I'll send it to you, Wendy.
Oh, the Vimeo link. Okay, let me see here.
While she's doing that, Edward, someone was asking if you could share more knowledge about shading for claymation. How did you do that?
So that was a few different things. So I was trying to play around with USD, or play around with like image sequences using like UDIM within Omniverse. And so there was a whole bunch of shaders that were all interacting. There was a bunch, like I had black and white image sequence I built in After Effects that was using a bunch of fingerprint smudges. And so I had roughly 24 images of all these different smudge and different marks. Because if you've ever played around with like claymation or plasticine, when you smudge it, you get those fingerprints, right? And that's part of like that really cool, natural. And so that was one of it. The other thing was using deformation. Maps was the same thing. A bunch of like indented prints. I got it off an artist sent me. He was using bubblegum, and he did the same thing. He did time lapse of bubblegum, kind of expanding and pushing, and it gave me the perfect clay texture that you would get when you're kind of molding clay. And so it was just kind of overlaying all these different elements into a custom shader. And then in Omniverse, you can snap that all together using material graphs.
Wild.
So I apologize. I did bring the video in over that, and the music was playing. I tried to turn it off.
I didn't hear it.
The video is
I can always play without sound on my side if that.
Okay.
yeah, like it
Yeah,
was just something.
we
it's-
practiced
So
this before. We know how to do
I-
sound effects.
Okay, so we'll do our own sound effect. No, we don't
Yeah,
have
let's
to
try
do
this
that. I do apologize
Contingency
for
plans.
So this is something that Edmar was saying, "Hey, Edward, can you come on the podcast or on this live stream? Sorry, we'd love to share some of the work you've been doing." And so I snapped together this quick demo within a couple days, between projects, and it was just kind of playing around with like anima and craft animation. And this isn't done; this is still work in progress. But I just really wanted to have fun with it and just kind of see what kind of cool visuals I can come up with. And just playing
Just in
so
2
the stories
days?
still come together. Yeah, so it was a couple
What?
days of just like, but the scenes, like the assets, this was assets that were purchased and kind of snapped together, various
Yeah.
things all quickly together. But yeah, I was just having fun with it, and from this I found a cool way to be able to do like real camera motion and attaching it to objects and playing around with lighting, and I was just having fun with it. So this isn't done yet, but I just wanted to have an example to share, for the live stream that we were going to do last week. So keep an eye out for
Beautiful.
this.
Yeah,
live
let's.
version.
We talked about this in the green room before about
Yeah.
having just a dedicated show of showing you workflow, and connected to your other working machine. I think people would love that. Be able to watch,
Yeah.
ask questions in real time and see how you do things, because you do make it look so easy. As Lou was saying, you make it look really easy. And I think that the key there is your experience with the DCCs and the UX, which is great for us to know and hear, because obviously that's we want the experience to be as seamless as possible.
Yeah,
Um,
and so there's so many things you can do, and I'm happy to share that knowledge. And it's one of those things that it's all pretty. It's the same techniques used over and over again, right? Like once you have it all kind of working roughly in your DCC, it's like bringing it into Omniverse. It's pretty much the exact same process, and you can change materials, you can change your lights. You have complete control at that point once it's all running all in the same platform.
Amazing.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Edward, I can't thank you enough for coming on today's stream, and sharing all of your just mind-blowing work that you've been doing. Your talent is just off the charts. It's so cool. Someone like you take full advantage of what Omniverse is offering, and leveraging it with all the tools that you already use and love. So thank you. I look forward. I think you will be a regular. You'll be competing with Damien.
Amazing. Yeah, well, it's like I love the community. I love all the seeing all the work of all the different artists and just seeing the cool ways that they use it. So it's also a thanks to you guys as well. The amazing team over there that you guys are doing some really cool stuff, and so I'm excited to see where this is going to go.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Everything we do is for you guys, so.
It's true. And Lou, Rohan, thank you so much. I know how busy you are. Going to actually, Unreal is not the only area you work on. You want to tell people a little bit about the other stuff you do here on the Omniverse team?
Well, yeah, I mean, we just
Amazing.
released the Substance connector, Substance 3D Painter connector.
Yeah.
And that we're really excited about that because it's sort of a new generation of the way connectors work. You can dig into the docs if you're curious. And we're working on improving that. We pushed something out and we're working on it now, working really hard. I also work on what is simple as the Connect sample, which is a way that developers actually get our version of USD that works with our Omniverse client so that you can actually interact with your application in Omniverse. And there's tons more about that. Same doc page, same launcher, location to get everything. So
it's
there's more, but whatever.
There's always more.
I don't have cool videos like Ed there. I need to get some videos.
Yeah. But thanks again. And so the one thing I just wanted to throw out, if anyone has any questions, I'm always around. Hit me up on Discord or on YouTube. I try and stay active there as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Ed.
Edward, you also have a Patreon page, don't you?
Oh.
I do. Yeah. So I share project files through there. That was just a recent thing I'm trying to add on there, but all my tutorials give you everything you need in order to do 100% what I'm doing. And you guys can download the project files from there as well.
That's great.
Thank you
And
so much.
Lou mentioned the launcher a minute ago. So we've been doing a lot of work on the launcher. Specifically, the team that Vince Breeze-Bra works with has really overhauled the Learn area. So if you go to Learn at the top, and I'm always surprised. Some people say, "Oh, I never even clicked on that before." Go to Learn, because that's how you can find out almost everything Omniverse related, and it's really well organized by app or by vertical, and it's always in order. So the new stuff is always first. So go to that Learn tab. There's the launcher, I think by default opens to news. So check the latest news there as well. And then of course, as Lou mentioned, Wendy manages our forums, so that's a great place to go if you are having any kind of issue or question or bug, feature requests, because we can track everything there. We do kind of also provide some support on Discord, but go to the forums first if you have a bug, because we track everything there.
Yeah.
Discord is more for like, let's share stuff. If you have any workflow tips or challenges there and you want to talk to other users, that's a great place. The developers do hang out there also, though, but we don't want to bother
when
them too
they
much.
get a chance.
Yeah. So Discord is really easy. Discord.gg/NVIDIA Omniverse. And thank you so much to our guest, to Wendy.
Yes.
I didn't see Jasper, our Omniverse cat. He's probably on Instagram doing something.
He knocked down one of my lights during the stream, so if you saw my lighting change.
I did not even notice that.
He was sitting like right next to me this whole time, and I didn't even see him leave. He was just like, I'm done with that light. Take it out.
He has a cutoff of exactly 1 hour, so we overshot
right.
it. He's very in demand. He does have an Instagram page though, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah. For fun, I did set up an Instagram page, Jasper the Omniverse Cat.
I love it.
He's a regular.
He goes on there and tells what he does for Omniverse, and and it's
like
usually
he's
a nap, but
so.
that's important.
We'll have to interview. We said dedicate a specific live stream just to interview Jasper. I think that would be really interesting. I know he's a great 3D modeler.
Yeah.
His litter box is his medium.
We need to. God. We need to have him in Avatar or like just audio to face, just to like.
Oh, that's great. Yes. All right. We'll work on that.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for joining us. So lots of great questions. I saw a lot of great people helping each other in chat. I love to see that. We're going to go over to Discord now and hang out in the community voice chat room if you want to hang out for a few minutes. Lou, you're invited, but no pressure. Edward, also you're invited, but no pressure. But I'll be hanging out there if anyone wants to come over there. We're doing this after every live stream now. And we are planning a whole bunch of Meet the Experts series. So you can hang out in Discord with someone from the team. We'll answer your questions on a specific topic. And I would get in big trouble if I didn't announce next week we have a very special live stream on Machinima contest. Dane Train himself will be. So Wendy's going to sit back and relax and enjoy the chat channel while Dane Train manages his live stream server. We will go. I think he has another special guest too coming on with him, and they're going to walk everybody through about how to make a Machinima entry for the latest contest of making your own type of game trailer using Omniverse Machinima, which is kicking off very soon. I think the webpage is live to sign up for notifications. So that's going to be a ton of fun. I can't wait to see what people do. I'm always amazed at
Yeah, I just saw that today actually. Yeah, there's some cool prizes there. So
Are you going to do it? Are you
Yeah.
gonna?
I don't know. We'll see if I have time, but yeah, it looks like a fun comp. So
Yeah, so that'll be next week on Wednesday, that live stream. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see on Discord if everyone's available. So thank you very much. Thank you, Wendy.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah.
all right,
Thank you.
Thanks, Lou. Thanks, Ed. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.